Hello everyone, welcome back to the Discussion Lab. And today I want to talk about taking advice professionally, not personally. I'll give you a bit of a backstory and how I came about this. So I remember one of the first advice that I got. I was in boarding house in junior high school, right? I was living in the dormitory, and then I came for prep. Those of you who know prep, it's like at the end of the day, school days where we have time dedicated in the evening for us, the students, to come and learn, right? I think it was about 2 hours, can't really recall. And so I was coming to prep, and then I bumped, before that we'll go to the dining hall, right? Where we'll go and have our supper and then come back. So we were walking back to prep. I was with a couple of friends, and then one friend pulled me aside. I remember her so much. Emilia was her name. She pulled me aside and then she said, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Sure." And then she said, "Your shirt smells really bad." Can you imagine? My face dropped. I was like, "What?" She said, "Yeah, your shirt smells like sweat." And I didn't know what to do. So I went to the room prep. I didn't want to walk by anybody. I didn't want to sit by anybody. So I sat at the darkest place in the room where no one wants to sit alone. And that evening when prep was over, I went to my dormitory and I washed the heck out of my shirt. And then, to be honest, she had a point, right? I was in a boarding school. I had a couple of shirts, but at that time, all of them had been stolen. I had only one shirt. And the young me, instead of me to take off that one shirt, I used that shirt to want to play soccer, football. And the time was too short for me to wash it and it to dry. So I just wore it to prep. And of course it was stink. And so I think when she told me, I just said, okay. And I went away. And then that evening I washed my shirt. The funny thing was, and I remember this one as a kid, I think the next couple of days when I bumped into her, I actually went to look for her in her class. And I called her and then she came. And I asked her, "Can you check if my shirt smell?" And she was shocked. It's like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she checked and she said, "No." In fact, I had sprayed the shirt with so much perfume, like I had dosed it in perfume so much. She was almost choking. And then she said, "No, it's too much perfume in your shirt." And then she asked me, why did you make me smell it? I'm like, "You found a fault. I want to be sure that it's fixed." So she did point it out to me, the perfume was too much. So anyway, eventually went already toned down the perfume because I had to wash the shirt again. It forced me to also get a second pair of shirt and a couple more so that I could interchange and switch them. And then over time, she started telling me, "Oh, you smell nice now. You smell nice now." Then that was when I really got used to deodorant and perfumes, right? So at that point, I was overusing perfumes. I'm sorry if you had a sensitive nose and you passed by me, then you would probably choke out on perfumes. And yeah, that was one of my first advice in my life that I remember Emilia giving me. Second one, I was in university. So I think second year in university. And I passed by a lady who's also my friend. Why is it always the lady who are the ones giving me advice? Just hit me. Maybe the men did. Actually, the men did. But I think the ladies one hurts more. At least it hurt me more, right? And so maybe that's why I remember them more. But she was my friend Lily. And then she walked close to me and then she whispered in my ear, "Your mouth smells like blood." It's like, what? Did I drink blood? So I had to tap her like, "What did you say?" She told me like, "Oh, your mouth is still of blood." So I went to grab mint and threw the whole box in my mouth. I chewed my gums out that day. And it made sense because I had been hit on my face with a football and I had blood in my mouth. And that day I hadn't really eaten much and I don't think I'd even spoken to anyone. That was my first lecture that day and I bumped into her in a very air-conditioned room. The air condition was blowing chilled air, so I guess it even made the bloody smell pungent. And she told me, but then it made me aware of mouth odors, right? So anytime I was talking to someone, I made sure there was some distance. I always make sure I have mint till date. You could say I was so traumatized, I still walk around with mint, right? Before I talk to you, best believe I'm popping a mint in my mouth or something. But funny thing again that I realized I did, now this was I was in my very early 20s, like 21, 22, 23, can't remember. I think I went to her And then I asked her, hey, anytime my mouth smells again, let me know. And she said, okay. So I asked her, can you check if my mouth smells? And she said, no, but I forced at it, and then she said, no, it smells mint. I'm like, good, I have mint. So at least I knew the mint word. Fast forward, a couple of months ago, I had a couple of friends talking, and I found out that one of the ladies was not talking to another one anymore because the other one gave her a piece of advice in private, and she took it so personal she wasn't talking to her. Because I knew them, I felt it my responsibility to at least try to talk to her about it. So I called her on the side and I asked her, hey, this might be me eavesdropping, kind of breaching into your conversation and everything, but I heard this, blah, 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 blah. Is it true? And then we spoke about it. And then I ended up telling her that I heard this thing somewhere on YouTube somewhere that learn to take advice professionally, not personally. And that's what I want to share with you. So she was telling me her friend gave her advice and she felt so attacked. Why would a friend do that? And so because of that, they were not friends. I'm like, why shouldn't a friend do that? It's a friend, someone who cares about you, that you want the person to give you advice and criticism constructively, right? It's someone that cares for you, that would hopefully give you that kind of feedback, people that want you to grow. And so I love constructive feedback. I want people to criticize me where they think I can improve, of course in a productive, constructive way, right, that I can definitely learn from. And so I wanted to share with you, and it made me start to think, why do we take advice so personally and not try to get the lessons learned from it? The first thing that came to mind, obviously when it happens, we feel attacked. It's attached to our identity, our ego. When you say my mouth smells, it's my mouth, not someone else. So I'm being attacked. When you say my shirt smells, the shirt is part of my identity at that point because I'm wearing it, right? If my car is dirty and someone says that I'm in the car, it's my car, it's part of my identity. So you are telling me. So we almost feel like you are attacking us. And obviously when you're attacking someone, the natural order of things is to be defensive. We have to defend ourselves from being attacked. And so I don't really blame people. I don't really blame things when we are being attacked. Second thing is also probably by implied flaw, which kind of ties to it, right? So when we are being attacked, it makes us feel like, oh, our flaws are standing out. We are not perfect. Everyone can see right through us and stuff like that. Then also ties to past experiences where people have tried to criticize us or give us feedback and it didn't go well, or they didn't do a great job at it. It could be your parents, it could be your sibling or a family member who, instead of them to constructively criticize you or kind of point out things you're not doing well, they will do it in such a demeaning, harmful way that it becomes a subconscious marker in our mark that anybody who tries to criticize us is someone who doesn't like us. The person is just trying to bash us or make us look bad, right? So from bad experiences. So at least these are things that I thought why we will take advice personally. I still do it, but I find out that the delivery matters. How you deliver advice is quite key. And the main idea now for this episode is for you that advice is being given to you, or feedback is being given to you, or criticisms, someone is criticizing you. So you are the receiving end of it. Point I want to tell you is learn to take it professionally, not personally. Question you asked me, how do you take it professionally? I'm going to share with you ways that I do that, or I've learned to do that. I started observing myself, right? How I've been taking advice and criticisms over time. And I wanted to share with you some of my ways. Maybe you might get a thing or two from this. One thing that I say over time, and anyone who knows me well enough knows this. Anytime someone gives me any kind of feedback or criticizes me, I learn to separate the advice or the point from everything. What do I mean from everything? One, from the person telling me. Two, from my own emotions. So when you tell me something, I make sure that I try as much as possible to kind of take you out of the picture and just take the words you're telling me. Like, Samuel, I think that this work, you could have done it better. Or for example, I don't like the presentation you gave. I felt like the words were too much or the colors didn't blend. Okay, let me put a person aside. Is what the person saying, is there any truth to it? Let me find out from other people who were in the meeting that I was presenting. How did the colors and the background stand out to you? Were they easy to read? Do you get a point I'm trying to make? So once I get any kind of criticisms or advice, I separate it from the person as much as I can and try to find out if there's really some value in it. And then I also separate it from my emotions, right? So I focus on the message, what is being told to me. And I also focus on the situation and the context that it was shared to me. Then maybe the person, what's my relationship with you? Oftentimes, I don't really care much about the relationship because I feel like I can learn from anyone, anywhere. So once you tell me, I'm going to focus on the message. If I can learn from it, fine, I move on. So that's my first lesson. Separate the advice, separate the message from everything, from the person and from your emotions. Don't get emotionally attached. You don't always have to react. One of the best things I've learned to do is to be a proactive person instead of a reactive person. So I'm not someone who you can easily catch me reacting to things. I don't want to react. So you can insult me, think that you get a reaction. No, my first instinct is I'm not reacting. Like I might react everything in my head, but it's not coming out, right? And I think it's almost become like a superpower. When you learn to not be a reactive person, when you insult me, my brain works very fast. I don't have to react the way you perceive or you want me to react. I'll do what I want to do. I'm not a reactive person to what is happening. I'll do what I still think is the right thing to do. So that's a good point to know. Second point is assume positive intent. One of the best things I've learned to do is I assume that everyone has a good intent. But I'm aware that obviously there are handful people, people with ill intent around. But in the professional setting or when you're my friend that you can't harm me instantly, when you tell me anything, I genuinely think you have good intent. So assume that the person has good intent. And I did it to someone who I knew very well the person didn't like me. Any bad thing the person said in front of me, in front of other people, I assumed the person had good intent. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's a good advice. I'll take it. And a person would criticize my work and in front of people, right? They wanted to make my work look bad. And I was like, yeah, that's a good advice. Oh, I would have appreciated it if you told me in person, but I think you are right. So I didn't take it personal. I didn't try to fight back. When he said something, I'll ask questions like, what made you say that? Why are you saying that? Then I was genuinely curious. I assumed positive intent. And it turned out that later it painted me quite good in front of people because they felt like they could see the person trying to attack me, but they were amazed how I reacted to it. Like I said, I'm not going to react or as much as I can based on what you're saying. So assume positive intent. At the end of the day, most people give advice to help anyway. The average person thinks they're helping. So just assume they have positive intent. If you don't like it, personally on the side, you tell them, hey, I didn't like how this thing came back. But you have to learn to take advice or criticisms professionally, not personally. And this is something I've shared in other episodes. This third point is filter what is useful, right? You can say all the things that you want to say, criticize me anyhow. I'm going to assume that there's some gem inside and I'm going to take it. And I know this because there's a family member of mine who talks a lot, always giving people advice and saying all sorts of things. But I notice is out of every 100 words that the person will say, it has no value. But there's always one piece of gem that if you pay attention and you find it, it adds so much positive value in your life. But most people don't listen to this person I'm talking about because it talks a lot, most of the time it's trash. And so when it's giving me advice, I open my ears. I don't take it personal, it's professional. I know that there's a lot of trash coming out, but there's always one good gem that comes out. Remember the episode where I talk about eat the meat and throw away the bone? This is a typical example, right? So this person would have a small meat, but the advice is the meat they are given. But there's a lot of, it's on the big bone. The bone is the thing you don't need. You don't eat it, right? So this person will talk, but there was always just one thing of value that you can get from it. And you remember when I was saying that you have to learn to separate everything, separate the message from the person and the message. And I was talking about some of the questions. Like sometimes you can ask, can you elaborate more on that? Or what made you say that? What made you suggest that? And don't say it in an angry tone. Then you're reacting. I'm genuinely curious. What made you suggest that? That's an interesting point. I want to know your reason. Maybe you are seeing something I'm not seeing. Maybe you're observing something I'm not seeing. I'm genuinely interested to learn from what you're saying. You can have bad intent for me, I'm taking it with good intent. Until you physically try to harm me or there's enough evidence, I'm taking it with good intent. And so it's really about learning to take advice professionally, not personally. And for me, like I said, I really take time to process. And so when you do anything, I'm not reacting unless I feel like I want to react in the way I want to. I'm normally, one of the best ways that I do is to breathe, right? So in my head, I'm counting 5. So I'm like, 1, 2, but I'm not doing it for you to see. I'm just taking breath, normal breath, but in my head I'm counting 5 seconds. I realize that normally if I'm able to count to 5 seconds, my thought pattern changes. I may not say harsh things that I was popping up in my mind. That helps me taking breath and sometimes just taking a bit of time to process it. And I ask myself, like what you said, what part of what you said is actually useful? That's something I internally ask myself. But I understand there are some folks who are just outright annoying. They are just out there to get you. And they would really say the harshest things, the harshest criticisms just to get you to react. And in that process, you learn to set healthy boundaries, right? And so like the person who was trying to call me in front of everyone back to back, and it was clear because later people told me they felt I was being attacked. I told her that some of her suggestions were good, but I didn't appreciate the manner that she was saying it. I felt attacked. I told her, I feel like you are attacking me. Can you kindly say it in a more constructive way so I can understand what you are trying to say? Perhaps I believe there are some good gems in what you are saying. I said something like that. And it kind of changed the tone. And there were people around because I'm not attacking you. I want to hear you, but you are being too high. So can you please calm down? I really want to hear you out and perhaps pick from what you're saying. Right. And in that process, I was subconsciously setting boundaries like, hey, if you want me to listen to you, you have to speak in a manner that I can hear you out. If the person continues to just bash and just bark around, then I'm going to say, hey, I'm sorry, but the manner in which you are speaking, it's very difficult for me to really get any useful insight from what you are saying. So when you're able to constructively or tone down what you are saying or say it in a way that I can learn from, I'm very open and willing to hear you out. So again, that's way of setting boundaries, right? You cannot just talk, or you don't allow people to just talk at you or to you anyway, anyhow. It doesn't mean fight back, but you can professionally address things. You don't have to be rude about it. Just assume positive intent and set boundaries. You can also politely decline or acknowledge people's point. So when someone says something, you have to do this. I hear you and I'm like, well, I think that's a good point, but at the moment, I think I'm comfortable sticking to this that I chose to. And it's respectful. I'm not just bowing down to you. I've heard you, but I'm ready for the consequences and I'm sticking to what I said. And I've acknowledged you, but I'm sticking to what I've said. And when punishment come, I'm ready for it, right? And so that's some of the things I've done. One thing that pops up to mind is this one person who was known to just give advice to everyone every time. Was just going around to do that. This person gives advice but can't apply them to their life. I told the person, listen, I appreciate the advice you give, but please, henceforth, please don't give me any more advice until I come to you to ask for advice. Like, I called a person out in a respectful way. Like, at the moment, I'm not interested in your advices. When I want to listen to them, I'll come to you. So I'm just trying to share ways with you where I set boundaries, that there are people who are just annoying and out there to get you. Those you have to learn to set boundaries by either politely acknowledging but declining and be firm, and calling people out respectfully to tone down, right? Like, oh, I don't like the manner in which you are talking. Almost sounds insulting to me. Can you kindly elaborate more in a constructive way? Things like that. And I feel like when you call people out respectfully, not in an attacking way, they kind of tone down a bit. In conclusion, just know that really, I think that most criticisms and advices out there to help you is an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity for you to hear what's out there, what people think about you, your work, whatever you are doing. Most of the time, there may be gems inside, or there may be good, useful points that may help you grow. Learn to take advice or criticisms professionally, not personally. And anyone tells you something, the way you were preaching, the way you were talking today was too fast. It's not a fight. A person is just giving his personal opinion. You can review it. If you think that you agree with the person, next time you improve. That's all there is. If not, you thank the person and you do what you're doing. I just want you to know this. Learn to take advice and criticisms professionally, not personally. But hey, what do I know? I know nothing. I'm just a naive observer. Peace.